day, everybody. My name is Vasanth. I'm an askIITian expert who teaches NEET aspirants to achieve their dreams. And today we are gonna learn something really nice from class 9. And the topic that we're gonna choose for today's video would be natural resources. And when it comes to natural resources, there are a lot of things that we can discuss about. And let's not waste any time further, and we can get into the class. Just allow me a minute. I hope everybody is able to see my screen. Okay, thank you. So when I talk about natural resources, it's actually the materials that actually available for us to grow in this environment. So all the materials which is going to support us to grow into this very world. Okay, we call this natural resources, which is actually naturally available in this very world. Okay, so let's see what are the topics that we're going to cover, and then we'll see the other things. Okay, topics that we're going to cover here is we are going to learn what is biosphere, and then natural resources. What are natural resources? And there are different classifications on natural resources. There are different types of natural resources. We are going to study about those. We are going to see air. What is air? What is it made up of? And other stuff in very detail. And what are the different regions of the air layer, which is atmosphere. And then what are the population what are the pollution that could be what are the huge population that could cause the pollution. What are the types of pollution and what kind of pollution that it can be caused to air. So we're going to study that. And after that, the next important water resource would be water. And we're going to study about what are the things that are spoiling them. So on top of that, we have biomagnification and eutrophication, which is also a part of the natural resource chapter. So let's not waste any time. We'll go directly into that topic, shall we? The first thing that we're going to talk about is biosphere. Okay, so you need to know what is biosphere first. So you need to break the term into bio and sphere. Sphere is the representation of Earth itself. So we always picture, when we say draw a picture of world, we will just draw a circle. But we all know naturally Earth is not spherical in nature. We call it geoid. Geoid. G-E-O-I-D. Geoid. It's not completely spherical in nature. It's irregular spherical in nature. So we call it geoid. Now here, but even though it is irregularly spherical in nature, so it has different layers of materials around it. So let's say, for an example, we say this is the inner core, and then the mantle, and then the external crust, and then on top of that we have a layer of sand, and then a layer of water. Okay, and then after that comes layers of air and other region. So if you see, it is actually a three-dimensional spherical nature, so which is covered by different layers of substance. So now anything that is covering the spherical layer, we're calling geoid, which is the Earth as a sphere here. Okay, considering it is a sphere here. So any material which is actually covering the spherical structure and itself acquiring a spherical shape, okay, we address them as sphere. Okay, so here the word bio means living. Okay, so the living organisms that is existing on this region. Okay, so this is what the word biosphere actually means. So here, Earth is the only one on which life exists. So that's what we have been we have been known so far, because we don't know any kind of an alien planet available, and whether that they have a lot of organisms available. So we don't know much about that. Okay, so the resources of Earth are the land, water, and the air. So these are the most important resources which are the most important constituent of the world itself. And there are other resources include other material in the Earth itself is fossil fuel, and then the sunlight which comes from outside the Earth, in the solar system. And then the wind is which is caused by the movement of air all around the Earth. And then mineral deposits which have been here since the Earth is formed. before several billions of years. So now there are the biosphere and the natural resources are basically divided into two stuff. One is the living and the non-living. So this the constituents which is going to constitute the living, which is going to form the living, are of basically two contents, or basically classified into two contents. One is the living and the non-living stuff. So the living stuff is called biotic components, and the non-living stuff is called abiotic components. So when we see about the living component, it's just the materials which are actually living, like a human being, and then like other animals, and then insects and microbes, and then plants, and then trees, grasses, and everything. All those comes under biotic components, and every single living organism is categorized under living component or biotic component. So any organism which is not living, they're called non-living component or abiotic component. So this is about biosphere and its resources in detail. So here you can see the entire biosphere includes the atmosphere, hydrosphere, and lithosphere. Atmosphere includes the gaseous layer, okay, and then hydrosphere. Hydro means water, okay. Hydro means water, okay, and then atmo means surrounding. So surrounding is air, okay, and then litho means earth. Okay, earth represents soil. So there's all the three major types of resources which is actually available that constitutes the biosphere itself. Okay, I hope you have understood about biosphere and natural resources in detail. Let's go to the next slide. So classification of natural resources again into two types. So one, after being utilized, whether it is going to be recharged back, naturally, is it going to be available, naturally without interference of human being, or it will get replenished, or sorry, it means it will get replenished, or it gets used. It gets used. It is not going to be replaced any sooner. So there are two types. One is renewable resource, and other one is non-renewable resource. So let's see the differences, shall we? So the resources that can be renewed by reproduction are called renewable resources. So any material which can be made available in the environment or in the nature or in the biosphere by human activities, we call it renewable resources. So the resources that are present in fixed quantities are called non-renewable resources. Let's say, for an example, you take an amount of clay and make a pot out of it. So we can make pot again. We can make a pot again by breaking the sand, and that's what you think. Definitely not, because the composition of the pot after it is being made and cooked, it will be changed. So it will not be suitable for again to make pots. Or let's say, for an example, we use a computer to actually get things working. So once after we throw it in the dumpster, it is really hard to get the same purified form that we have acquired to make the computer. So that's where that's where the difference is actually. So any resources which can be replenished is called renewable. Anything which cannot be replaced, it is actually in fixed quantity and it cannot be produced more and more, then it's called non-renewable resources. So for example, renewable resources are inexhaustible, like anything that is constantly available, okay, without any hindrance of availability. So non-renewable resources is exhaustible, which means it can be made to zero. We can reach a point where it will no longer be available. So that's the difference between renewable and non-renewable resources. So renewable resources are not affected by human activities, which means any human activity which is actually include living and doing lots of stuff like doing laundry and then wasting water and everything. So the water goes up and then due to evaporation and then comes back and cools down and pours down in the form of rain. Okay, so this is one kind of a renewable resource. But what if there is another type of non-renewable resource, natural gas and petroleum products. So these are formed by nature themselves, okay, by modifying their molecular structure, and then later they are available in different forms. So once after they are used up, it is not going to be available in the same place. So it is a non-renewable resource. So they are non-conventional sources. Okay, non-conventional sources usually the renewable resources. And when it comes to non-renewable resources, there are conventional sources, which is actually the most important. So what do you say? An example could be conventional is again the coal and the lignite that we actually get in, and then like we burn them and then we get the energy out of and all those things. Like, those are like non examples of non-renewable resources, and those are all conventional in source. And the example for renewable resources involve the energy that is totally non-conventional. Example like wind energy, solar energy, and hydro energy. So these are the differences between renewable and non-renewable resources. The two basic classification based on their availability for human being when it comes to natural resources. Okay. So the next thing that we're going to study about is the different types of natural resources. So air is one of the most important components of natural resource, which is available in very earth. And in this case, air can be forming different layers of gases. Like air can be made up of different layers or different composition of gases. Here, the atmosphere, which consists of air, okay, is basically majorly made up of like nitrogen. You can see it is made up of 78% of nitrogen over here. And then the second major component that you could find is the oxygen, okay, which is 20%. And the next is the water vapor. And after that contains inert gases for 0.97% and 0.03% of carbon dioxide and other gases. So this is the basic composition of all the gases that is available and constituting the atmospheric air. So this accounts to the volume, and this is what is making applicable for almost everything in this very world. So the nitrogen in this air is going to be utilized by nitrogen cycle, which you'll be learning in the upcoming videos. And you would have studied about this nitrogen fixation and all those things in 8th standard even. So these processes will be will help you understand what is the composition, what is the uses, how nitrogen is going to be functional in this case, and all those stuff. Okay. So this is the air, and air is the basic component of the ecosystem to run, and is one of the most viable natural resource. So once this air gets polluted, it is obvious that the pollution cannot be reverted back, and the functions that as human we are going to be performing, or all the organisms which is going to be surviving, will not be able to do their work, because there will be a disruption in the uniformity. Okay, I hope you'll understand that. So there are different layers of atmosphere based on the distance between the Earth and the other layers. So there are different layers. One is troposphere, another one is stratosphere, another one is mesosphere, and then thermosphere and exosphere. So in between the troposphere and stratosphere exists the ozone layer. So ozone layer is actually made up of O3. So it is a completely unstable compound which can constantly undergo reaction. But the only thing that is protecting us from the harmful UV rays is this O3 molecule. This O3 molecule deliberately refracts the light, okay, refracts the light, and UV light, not every light, UV light, and defends us from the harmfulness of the UV rays. So the distance between the the Earth and the layers actually varies after one another. So based on which the temperature also varies, and their composition varies, the density of the air varies. So there will be a lot of differences. Okay, this is about the layers of atmosphere. And when you talk about air pollution, so we have understood how important is air, because everything is air in our body. Our body consists of without the body's breathing ability, we will not be able to process all the molecular interactions and stuff like that. And then every body requires all kind of gases to function. In our body, we require oxygen, to literally break the energy sources and then get our energy liberated. So this is one of the requirement in our body. But do we not require nitrogen? We require nitrogen, but it is indirectly. Okay, so we get the nitrogenous material in the form of protein. So when it comes to air, it's just a composition of all the gases that is essentially necessary, required for our body to function normally. Okay, now So what is air pollution? So pollution is a process where it makes the component, like, useless, or no, you cannot call it useless. It makes it unsafe for consumption or usage. So any pollutant or material that is going to cause it unsuitable for usage. So that is called air pollution or a pollutant. Okay, the pollutant with are substances which is going to spoil the nature of the material is called pollutant. Okay, so the pollutants could be many stuff. Okay, and even organic molecules which are actually present in this earth, and they also dissipate and then they are present in the atmosphere, which could also harm the existence of organisms in this very atmosphere. Okay, so air pollution is usually caused by living organisms around us, especially human being. We are like totally lethargic and then irresponsible in most of the cases. So I clearly accept that case, and we have to be very, very, very careful when it comes to performing all these functions. Example, combustion of fuel. So we need to be very, very careful when it comes to combustion of fuels. It should be burnt only when there is a requirement. Okay, and the industries gives out a lot of smoke, and those smoke has to be controlled by having several filters installed in the chimney. The chimneys are extensions through which the smokes comes out. So they should have different layers of filtration, because of which the pollutant materials will not reach the atmosphere. Okay. And burning of crackers. So burning of crackers is another addition to air pollution, because crackers include chemical substances, and upon burning they will produce smoke. And on top of it, it also produces noise pollution, which is not good, in the atmosphere, because there are a lot of animals which cannot bear with the decibel of the sound that actually the crackers produce. Okay? And on top of that, we have forest fires. Some forest fires are natural, and some of them are because of ignorant people. And volcanoes are also sleeping destructions. Upon awakening, the volcanoes will burst out into ashes, and then it clears the area, and all these things would happen. So these volcanoes are also catastrophic in nature, which can produce a lot of smoke, and that will darken the place when the volcano erupts. So that would lead to several diseases. A person is trying to breathe. Okay, when the air is totally polluted, it's obvious that he will not be able to, or she will not be able to breathe. So when that process takes place, all the particles that is not allowing him to breathe will also enter into the nostrils, into the respiratory system, and will cause several diseases. We call that respiratory disease, because it is implicating the respiratory process. And the next one is global warming, because air is like a medium through which the light actually enters. So, and the heat also enters. So what actually happens is different composition of gases, especially that causes greenhouse effect. Okay, greenhouse effect is where the heat that is actually deflected or reflected out of the earth is retained because of the presence of certain material in the atmosphere. Okay, and it is not let out. So because of which the globe, the earth itself, will get heated up. So because of this heating up process, we call this global warming. And due to burning of fossil fuels, several types of materials nitric acid, and then sulfurous acid, and lots of materials are being formed. And when they are mixed up with water, they form this acid. So when the sulfur dioxide gas mixes up with water, it forms sulfurous acid. And then when the nitrogen dioxide actually, nitrous oxide, when actually mixes up with water, it forms nitric acid. So these acids will actually have an implementation on, or will actually have a harmful effect on the living organism which is surviving, and they will be having a lot of problem. Let's say, for an example, Taj Mahal. Taj Mahal, the color of Taj Mahal have changed so much because of the pollution that is caused. This process is called yellowing of marbles. So the marbles with which the Taj Mahal was made, okay, is become yellow because of the harmful gases that is released that causes corrosion on the marbles. So that is a a clear like an example for air pollution. Okay. Yes. Next important natural resource is water. So water is like the most basic component of the organism, because you see in a living organism there is more than 70% of component that is available in human body or living organism would be water. The remaining contains all the dry waste. Okay, so the water is the most important medium. Water is called the medium of life. Right? Because without the presence of water, even viruses cannot be called a living organism. So what are you talking about? Seriously, yes. Because in the chapter, okay, in fundamental units of life, and even in the chapter in 8th standard in microorganisms friend and foe, you would have learned that viruses are neither living nor dead. So why do you say that? Because virus have external protein code, and inside they have genetic material. So when they have this kind of a process, it is easily understandable that the organism will not have any kind of a cytoplasm inside. So when there is no cytoplasm, which is the basic constituent of cytoplasm is water. When they don't have cytoplasm, the materials cannot move around and perform, and there is no machinery. So the water in the cytoplasm, when it is taken away from a plant cell, we call this plasmolysis. We know that very well. We studied that in the chapter fundamental units of life under the process of osmosis. So when the liquid component is like oozed out of the plant cell, we call it the cell have undergone plasmolysis, which means the plasma, the liquid component, has oozed out of the plant, so which makes the plant cell die. Okay, so this is the process. This is how important is water. So now in our day-to-day life, if a person is actually dehydrated, his total body will go collapsed. He will be totally destabilized. All his effective working abilities will be totally spoiled. So this is how important is water in human body. Okay, so not only in human body, we use it for agriculture to produce food and several industrial purposes, and even for domestic purposes like agriculture purpose, domestic purpose, and industrial purposes. But the point is, there is only 3% of water that is actually fresh water available in this very world. Can you believe out of 100%, there is only 97% of water, most of the water that is actually saline and that is enclosing the earth in the form of ocean and water. Okay, and the distribution of fresh water again in the earth will be 0.3% of surface water and 30.1% of groundwater, and the maximum is actually frozen in the form of glaciers and ice caps, and 0.9% in the form of others vapor and other stuff. Okay, now when we talk about the fresh surface water which is 0.3, in that the lakes involve 87% and swamps involve 11% and rivers just involve 2%. Why rivers only 2? Because they are not going to have water. They are just going to be a passage in which the water runs. So that's what you should always remember. Okay, so this is how the distribution of water will be. So the only amount of fresh water that is available for us, okay, at all times is the 0.3% of water. Or we can say that the only type of fresh water that is available for us will be the surface waters and the groundwater, 30.1%, totally 30.4% of the fresh water that is available. But in this case, when it comes to the fresh surface water, which is liquid form, so we can acquire it from rivers and lakes, but not from swamps, right? So that is where we are limited. So it might sound huge amount, 87%. Okay, 87%, that is 87% of the surface water, which is 0.3%. So that is very less quantity compared to what we have as 3% of total 100% in fresh water. So if you see the ratio distribution, it will be very less quantity which is readily available for our consumption. So water is one of the most important most important and universal liquid or universal fluid, which my father's very good a person who's very much concerned about conservation of water as much as possible, and he actually have the quality installed in us in the family also. So we just need to make sure that not to waste water when it is not required. So you just need to make sure that. So this is actually water resource in natural form. And the next thing that you're going to learn about is how water is polluted. So see here again the same thing we're going to study for air. So water is like a medium again, which can be added with any unnecessary material, which makes it physically, chemically, and compositionally not consumable. So any material which makes the water not suitable for consumption or usage is called contamination. Okay, it's called the substance which is added is called contaminant or pollutant, and which actually makes the water unsuitable for consumption or usage. So then these water bodies are filled with these substances. It makes the water body unsuitable for usage. So this is where we get to we are forced to buy water outside, or we say there is no drinkable water. But the point is, it is us. It's most of the time it is us whose activities, human activities, are going to have a huge backslash on the water scarcity. Why? Because of the water scarcity is because of us, because it is us who are polluting or occupying places which are once water barriers and lakes and swamps and stuff. So when we start acquiring those places and build some constructions and then do things, so the water will not find a place to get stored in surface. And one more thing, the best way to store water would be when you recharge them underground, because so that the evaporation rate will be so less and it can be taken out anytime by pumping it out. Okay, this is the most important thing. So the one thing which we can talk about when it comes to water pollution is river Ganges and its condition. So river Ganges is actually so polluted. Okay, it is not suitable for even animals to survive in it. So that's why Gangetic dolphins, okay, are lost. It is totally lost, extinct. So this is it is considered to be an endangered species earlier. Now it has become completely lost from the screen, but at times it just shows in the screen in the life that, and proving that it is still existing. And sometimes it makes us happy, but when we see very small number, it makes us feel really bad that it is because of our action that the existence of this very animal is questioned. Okay, you understand the point? Okay. So the next thing that we're going to study about is biomagnification. So biomagnification is where in a nutshell, what we see is here there is a food chain over here. So these are called producers, or called phytoplanktons, or green producers, and then these are zooplankton. So the phytoplanktons actually is fed by the zooplankton, and these zooplanktons are fed by the smaller fishes, and these smaller fishes are fed by the bigger fishes, and these bigger fishes are fed by the pelican, the bird. Okay. Now, if you see this phytoplanktons have taken up some of the chemical component, which is 0. microgram. Okay, microgram. Now, when it goes from here to here, okay, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, which makes it 0.4 microgram. Okay, in one organism. Okay, this is one organism. In one organism. And this fish is taking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 fours are 20, right? 2.0 microgram. And then when it goes higher and higher, okay, so 2.0, 1, 2, 3. 3 twos are 6. 6 microgram. So 6 plus 6 is with 12 microgram. See here, it is gradually increasing from 0.1 microgram to 12 microgram. So why are we talking about this over here is, so every tropical level, Okay, we call it tropical level. So this is a food chain, and in that every tropical level, the amount of chemical substances when we go to the highest tropical level, it keeps on increasing in quantity. When the chemical substances that are not required and that cause ill effects in the life in the organism, when it is going to be increasing in quantity, once we go up the ladder of food chain, and the last organism, the highest organism, will be having the more amount of chemical substance in it. Okay, so the chemical substance which you're talking about could be DDT. Okay, dichloro diphenyl trichloroethane. So that's actually a chemical substance which is banned now. And then even any chemical substance which is going to be harmful upon accumulation in the body of any living organism, okay, it is getting accumulated only at the most highest tropic level, in higher quantity, and it keeps on getting accumulated. Once after it is like it has reached an unbearable quantity, then it will be taken care. Okay, I hope you have understood the process of biomagnification. So eutrophication, this is where any water bodies, okay, which is going to be filled with, enriched with organic material and nutrients that lead to abundant growth of plant life, and usually micro algal blooms. So these algal blooms will actually be a very good sign of eutrophication. Why? Because when there is more amount of organic nutrient abundant, and it is obvious that the organic material is going to provide more nourishment for the plants to grow and stuff. So as a reason of it, there will be covering of algal bloom in the process. So once after this algal bloom is covered, algal bloom is covering the thing. So the algal bloom will not allow the materials, okay, to actually enter in. So as a reason which, what happened, the materials will undergo decay, and then they will form a foul smell, and then the water will be made unsuitable for consumption, and all those things takes place. So in nutshell, the eutrophication is a process where there will be abundance of organic material in it, as a result of which the organisms survive in this will be replaced by excessive growth of phytoplanktons and other organisms, other plants mostly. So as a result of which there will be complete loss of habitat in that organism, in that water source. So this is called eutrophication. I hope every one of you understood about eutrophication. So there are a few questions which we can actually deal with, which includes how would these advantages differ from advantages of using a long-term perspective in managing our resources. So when we actually have a very good way of managing resources, we need to think in the perspective that we are not the only generation which is going to survive. Okay, so we are just the present generation. So that we should not be exploring everything. Instead, we should enjoy, and we should conserve as much as possible, and so that it can be left behind for the next upcoming generations. So there should be exploration of resources and in a gentle manner, and the resources extracted or explored, okay, should be given equally to each and every people of that environment or the biosphere. Okay, so that is what makes it more important. The next question will be, what are the main causes of water pollution? So water pollution is caused by several things, and which few of the important things are listed below. One is industrial activities and urbanization and religious and social practices and agricultural runoff, and some of the accidents which are also going to be terribly causing a huge downfall when it comes to the quality of the water. Okay, so these are the main sources of the causes of water pollution. Okay, I hope you all understood the question and answer. So thank you so much for spending your time. We have lots of videos coming up, and we would like to have you in our live classes, because if you have enjoyed this video, and it is obvious that you will be enjoying our live classes as well. The live class will be more interactive. You will get to ask questions, and we will be like giving you more answers, and you'll be more interactive. And we can promise you that you will definitely enjoy. And whatever questions that you have got with respect to these this video, okay, you can post them in our forum, and we can get it answered by our experts. And then you will be able to understand us in a much better way. And happy to I was very happy to teach you this these content, and looking forward to see you in the next video. Thank you so much, guys. Have a nice day.